Good morning, group. Bart here, Canine Evolutions. We're here with my good friend Little Guy. We're going to make a demonstration of the reactivity exercises as discussed in part 1 from the video where I explained the theory. So we are going to have a neutral dog in the middle of the circle, and then we're going to get the subject, the reactive dog, at the edge. And we are basically going to work within those circles, the green, orange, red, and eventually green circle. And what we're going to do is we're going to reward the dog for making correct choices. And the correct choice is not to react to the decoy dog. And so the dog has two options: either engage with the decoy dog, where the decoy dog is basically his distraction, or to engage with the handler and not bark and not respond, and therefore gets rewarded. Good. So what you can see is that the dog is not paying attention to the decoy dog. So what we can test for, if you think about my imaginary green circle, the dog should not respond in that same distance. So if Kayla now walks a circle around the decoy dog and keeps the distance, that dog should not respond. So if we position her there, relax. Yeah. Sit. Good. Let's move again. Sit. Good. Sit. Good job. Don't forget to reward the dog when she's in neutral. Sit. And now let's walk the circle differently with the dog on the inside of the circle, which is a little bit closer. So we're getting more to the orange line. The little guy just wants to work. Follow in. Follow in. Good. So let's, what we'll do now is we'll stop and then have Kaylin step 2 feet inside the circle and decrease the distance. And stop. And let's decrease the distance. Follow in. Good. And stop right there. And reward. And let's decrease the distance. And stop right there. And reward. And now start walking your circle there. Good. And let's decrease the distance one more time. Right there. Good. And stop. So the dog is making good choices. And that's basically how the system works. Okay, let's switch it up. Let's get another doggy. So we're here with another dog. Rosie is coming. Um, she's a very reactive dog, so we're going to see how close in the circle we can bring her, as the camera has only so much reach. So we might end up with Rosie being outside camera view. So make sure that the dog has loose line and can correct. Okay, let's stop over there, because there's already response. And so one of the things that we need to look at, relax. I'm gonna ask my dog to relax while she's doing that behavior. So she's basically punished for engaging with the dog. So Rosie is, maybe the camera can be turned a little bit. Relax. So Rosie is whining and pulling on the leash, vocalizing, and now she's taking a pee break over there. So we're gonna keep Rosie there. She still has a lot of signs of stress. She's whining, she's engaging, she's lip licking right there, she's spacing. The wagging of the tail, by the way, does not mean that the dog is happy. The dog basically says that she's communicating, so we need to look at the other parts of the body to understand what she's actually saying. And here she says, hey, I'm getting a little anxious here with the dog around. There's a lot of vocalization from the dog. I asked little guy to not look at her and look at me. So the lesson that this is here, as this is the threshold, so the circle is too big for, too small for Rosie, so we need to increase the distance from the dog until the dog, now she should have rewarded right there, Kaylin. She was way too slow. As the dog engaged with her, you immediately need to reinforce there. And again, there should be some reinforcement. And now let's decrease the distance towards the decoy dog. Good. And let's do the same thing. Good. So you can see that here with rewarding, there is some focus onto the left hand as the food is in the left pocket, and there's some anticipation going on. Sit. So we need to watch out that we don't reward for begging here, because we reinforce the clicking. So let's increase the distance a little bit. I mean, increase the pressure, decrease the distance. That was my bad here. So Rosie now is trying to do everything. That's the reward that needed to happen. There you go, because Rosie engaged with the dog and disengaged and then remained calm behavior. So let's decrease the distance again. Good, reward. And then what I would do with this dog is increase the reward criteria by also being calm and have a sitting behavior and not jumping and pushing towards the handler before she gets rewarded, like now. Let's decrease the distance. And so now the dog knows that she's going to be reinforced by looking, so we can increase the criteria by asking a little bit more time. And then other behavior is going to pop up, because the dogs eventually are going to be very inventive and looking to see what rewards is reinforcing, or what behavior actually are reinforcing. So she jumps about every couple seconds here. That should be reinforced, and nice timing from Kalen there. Good, again. So let's walk the dog about a quarter circle on that line. So let's test the line here. So walking is more difficult, as you can see. So you see that movement increases the difficulty for the dog. Good. That click should have come a lot faster. And the movement should have been a little slower, because the more speed you get, the higher the arousal of the dog. So stop right there. So there's no point in walking with a pulling dog. The dog is completely engaged with the other dog. So now we need to wait. I'm gonna ask little guy to keep paying attention to me here and not reward the dog by looking at her. Her behavior is not successful. The dog is not looking at her at all. So you can see that this distance after the arousal, so walking increased arousal, and now that distance is too difficult for her. And reinforce, there you go. And let's try that again. Go to the same distance as you were before. And reinforce. And reinforce. And reinforce, and just feed the kibble a little bit slower maybe, because she's inhaling that food. And reinforce. And reinforce. Yeah, come maybe half a foot closer. Sit. No, ga zitten. And reinforce, very good. Volgende. And reinforce, good job. Come. Sit, relax. And then I would wait to click until she sits actually and shows a little bit more calmer behavior. She starts understanding the game. Yeah, and come a little closer. Yeah. And again, movement increases arousal. Sit. And reinforce. And reinforce. And then move maybe 2 steps parallel and 6 inches towards me. Los. You see, movement increases arousal, and arousal increases difficulty. Good, relax, follow it. Yeah, good, and that should be a good reward. Make it happy, and then increase your distance from the dog as a reward as well. Now go back towards decoy. Yeah, stop. And do that again. No. No. Relax. Little guy. Follow him. So we see that our threshold is about 15 feet. Anything closer and the dog loses it. Yeah. And I make that very happy. The dog made a really good choice there in redirecting. Good, some social contact is absolutely fine. And that reward should have taken a lot longer as there was excellence. And don't walk directly to the dog. Always use your parallel lines. That's the biggest mistake people make. Okay, stay with the dog although you're listening to me. Partly the behavior that's going on here is that that Rosie wants to be with me as well. Het is klaar. So the next time she disengages, we're gonna end the session here. Nee, het is klaar. Good, and now take the dog away. So guys, you can see it's not easy. Behavior modification takes time. Like I said, Rosie was an incredible dog, reactive dog, and we've worked with her for a long time. In the beginning, we couldn't even do this with the dog being 50, 60 feet away from other dogs, and now her threshold is around 12 to 15 feet. So we'll get another dog out, another male, very dominant male, also dog reactive to other males. Females he is better with. And then we'll have another go at this. Yeah. The next dog that we're bringing out in the reactivity training is male 1.5-year-old German Shepherd. He's very dominant. He's very dog reactive to males. So maybe my handler can stop and we can already turn the camera towards the dog, as we can already see a lot of behavioral changes. As the dog was approaching and he saw the other dog, his tail went immediately react. The handler should have rewarded right there. In contrast, so reward the dog, please. So in contrast to the behavior that he's seen. And that's something that a lot of people miss, is that the dog, you walk the dog, you see the dog's body language, the dog body language changes to the stimulation or visual stimuli cue here from me and my dog, and then the dog changed behavior again, and that is not reinforced. Because the dog, when he approached, changed behavior to a very dominant posture. He was starting to react to the dog, and then went into a calm sit, and the handler forgot to reinforce that. So that's something a lot of people don't do. So let's bring the dog a little closer, and let's start walking on the parallel line against the fence here. So as you can see, Obi is responding to the dog. Stop. You know, the ears go back, the ears go forwards, the tail go forward. He sticks his neck out, he's getting stiffer. The tail gets stiffer. And now he's kind of disengaging. Good. And then when he engages with a handler, he gets rewarded. However, I thought that that little turn there was actually an attempt to pee and to show his dominance. But that's not happening, and that's what needs to be reinforced. So what I'm going to ask the handler to do is keep that parallel line, and then slowly but surely decrease the distance towards the decoy dog. Yeah, and turn around. So good job. Lesson for the handler here, as you could see that the dog also was a little bit reactive to the cameraman here. And so as you're training this, you need to be aware of 360 degrees stimulation around you. If you don't have your 360-degree vision, here we need to be very careful what Kalen is doing, because he's actually rewarding the dog by increasing the distance for looking at the dog. So make sure that your lines are parallel, and think about the poster, the critical circle of confidence, that you keep the lines neutral, neither decrease pressure or increase pressure when you do that. And then make sure that you reinforce a little bit longer, not one click, one cookie, and vary the amount of reinforcement. So you're more like a slot machine than a predictable kind of dispenser. So the dog is getting a little tense, his breathing increases. Yeah. Good, and walk that parallel line now. Yeah, reinforce, go back. And walk a little bit closer. And then stop. There's somebody at the gate, so my dog just notified me that somebody was at the gate. Good, and reinforce, little guy. Good, so yeah, and increase your distance, decrease your distance. And stop. Good, nice. So sometimes what I like to do is I click and I grab a reward, and I grab another reward, and I grab another reward, and I grab another reward, just to make that reward last a little bit longer. It's often better to feed multiple 1-2 kibble hands than one big hand. The dog gets more reinforcement from a lot of feeding rather than a big hand of kibble. So it's much better to feed 10 kibbles at one at a time than 10 kibbles in one time. and walk a parallel line. Please. Good, nice. You can see the dog stiffening up a little bit, and then Obi relaxes again. And then step a little bit forward. No, that way, sorry. Yeah, stop. Good, reinforce. So now we're about, 10 feet apart from each other, maybe 11 feet. And Obi's doing good. And one more time. And stop. So once we are at this kind of level of success in not being reactive, the next step that I do in my reactivity training is doing parallel walks with this distance. So maybe we can demo that, and I'll ask the cameraman to kind of like follow us while we're walking parallel lines. Just maybe rotate it while it's on the post. It should be fine. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to keep this distance. This is very important, guys. And when you turn and you make your about turn, you never turn your dog into the other dog. Otherwise, you decrease your distance again. So you turn away from the dog and then walk that parallel line again. Okay? Okay, let's do it. So as you can see, Obi looks at the other dog. It starts to show reactivity. Volgen. Let's stop a little bit. Here. And again, movement means arousal. So as soon as we move, the arousal level kicks in, and the dogs have a much more difficult time being not reactive because of that high arousal level. You should have been rewarded right there. Okay, let's walk again. And you see, as soon as there's movement, he starts ramping up. So why don't we move my dog up and down, and then reinforce when Obi is calm. Yeah. See, movement increases arousal level, and movement increases predatory drive. So I'm going to slowly but surely increase my distance from the dog, as this is very hard for this German Shepherd right here. And reactivity training does take time, guys. There are other trainers out there that would immediately punish the dog and basically suppress the behavior, but that doesn't mean that you have fixed the behavior. You just suppressed it. You didn't cure it. And so the most important thing is that you're patient and go through this process with your dogs, and eventually the dogs will start learning to make other choices. So if you have a dog like this, 10-15 minutes of training per day is even sufficient. As you can see, Obi is improving. Good, and then reward him out of here. So that was a very successful session. Obi, a 1.5-year-old German Shepherd. So I hope that these 3 routines gave you a little bit of an idea in how that critical circle of confidence works, that stress circle. Some people call it BAT training, behavioral adjustment training. There's many different ways to deal with reactivity. Like I said, a lot of trainers will use aversives immediately. The only thing that does is doesn't change the dog's mindset, but it only suppresses the external behavior and often causes more stress and more frustration. So if you have a reactive dog, these exercises will absolutely work, but again, you need to be patient. If you do this every day, 10-15 minutes per day, in about a month to 2 months, you should see a lot of progress. The key in being successful with this work is that you can read the dogs well and that your timing of your reinforcer is spot on, so that you reinforce the right behavior and that you reinforce the right mindset state. So I hope this was helpful. I will see you in the next one. I'm gonna give little guy his ball here for being a good boy, and then I'll check with you later. Bye bye. Yeah. Good. So.